The Speak Their Name movement and our quilt for Hampshire and the Isle of Wight is primarily and lovingly dedicated to those who died by suicide.
I'm here to remember my daughter Grace. We lost Grace 6 years ago, just 2 weeks before her 18th birthday.
This is my son George, and George decided to leave us on 13th of August 2022.
Sasha was my younger daughter who died by suicide when she was just 20.
My oldest son, Warren, he took his life on the 20th of January 2016.
I lost my son Sam to suicide on the 19th of March 21.
I'm here to talk about my mum. I lost my mum in 1983.
My square is remembering John, our son, who took his own life in 2021.
I'm here today for my son Danny, who passed away on the 7th of March of this year.
We lost Kieran, in fact, just over a year ago. His anniversary was on the 26th of July.
She was my baby sister, who I lost in the 16th of July 2017.
I've done my square in memory of my cousin Stefan.
When my eldest was 16, he was called Peter. He decided that life just was too much for him and he left us.
So my son Kieran took his own life in 2017.
We lost our mother in 1979. At the time, I was 21 and my sister was 18.
My daughter Bryony, who's the one with the dark hair, died by suicide in 2012. I think about Bryony every day. It's nearly 12 years, I'm coming up to the 12th anniversary. But I think about her and I love her and miss her every day.
So finding out about the quilt and finding out about the Let's Get Talking About Suicide in Portsmouth campaign has been really helpful.
I then joined SOBS. I met some beautiful, beautiful people, beautiful friends that I think without SOBS I just wouldn't have got through this.
I've been with SOBS quite a while and they were amazing. It allowed me to talk about everything. The things I thought I was going mad with, the things I thought that wasn't normal. Our journeys are all different, yes, but we all still have things we need to say and we can't always say them to families and people we love.
It's not an easy thing to talk about as a bloke. I've found growing up, I think from meeting all the people that were sharing their experiences so honestly, it was a really emotive experience.
I came about sewing the quilt, the square, for Danny through the SOBS. And it is just one way of getting all our people remembered.
Getting involved with the project is a way of honouring a memory that she will not be forgotten.
The project has been a real honour to do, just because I always want to get his name out there, his memory out there, and it's another way to do that. And it's really nice to be part of a project with many people that know what it's like to be here.
It's taken a long time for me to be able to join a group, talk about him. I talk about him to everybody, but actually talk about him to other people who understand. And that's why this is really important to me.
I feel like this is a really great way to remember the ones we've lost, to speak their name and memorialise their name and their story in some way.
My daughter Grace, she was a beautiful, wonderful, happy-go-lucky young woman. She had a place at Winchester University and was taking a year out before she went there. She was going to study theology. She was my best friend. I know some parents shouldn't say that necessarily, but we were close. So losing her was losing a part of me, and the same for her dad and her brother. Grace was very creative, very artistic. So she had drawn a tree, which is the basis of my square. So I've taken her artwork, and not being creative at all, as she knew, I just put buttons on it. And yeah, it just represents the tree of life, everything that she was looking forward to, everything that was to come in her life, everything that she would have brought to the world if she'd been able to stay.
He was 35. He was a loving, caring, funny person with the biggest heart, biggest smile. George became a dad to his son Louis. Louis turned 16 last week. He was a very, very proud dad, and the day Louis was born, he was just ecstatic. This picture of George, it was in one of his favourite places, and we went to Thailand on an adventure, which he absolutely loved, with the Thai cooking and elephants. And so in my square, I've written a little about what George loved. He loved fishing. That was his tranquil place. He always had to do it on his own, because if he ever took friends with them and they would just sit and chat, George said they would disturb the fish, so he sent them packing.
This is my square for Sasha. Each stitch is sewn with love, and there's a couple of tears there as well. But it's a way to remember Sasha in a joyous fashion rather than just the sad memories. And I've included her signature and her favourite shoes, which is her Converses. And of course, who doesn't love a butterfly? But in fact, probably one of her most favourite shoes were her FU boots, which she could run like the wind in, surprisingly. And what I love about these is I feel that they're quite a defiant boot. They're quite rebellious. She used to strut up our high street wearing these with her fishnet tights and tiny skirt and jacket.
And he was a bundle of energy and love and life, and had biggest soul going. If Warren entered a room, you all knew it. He just entered, his smile entered first, and then his character. He's dad to 2 daughters, and he has 1 brother. My square, I got involved in that this year, and it's been an honour to do it. It took me ages to get doing it. But it's quite poignant for me, because my particular one shows my son stood there, all 6 foot tall of him, looking out to sea and being at peace. And it's a back view, so to me it's quite poignant, that particular picture.
My son was an ex-Royal Marine. He was in the Marines for 5 years, and he left the Marines due to mental health, and he went into being a tattoo artist. He was in the process of doing that, and took his life. I've sewn my square, and this is Sam's shirt, and this is the shirt that I cut up, because he'd already cut the sleeves off, because he was always doing that. And I've made the word Sam out of his sleeves on my square. I heard about it through a friend who also lost somebody, and it was lovely to actually have the quilt square come through for me to start sewing on. I think I got it on Saturday afternoon, and by Sunday, 8 o'clock in the evening, I'd finished it. It's not necessarily because it was so good, it's because I was just constantly like this. It actually was quite therapeutic, just sewing and thinking about Sam as I was putting every stitch in. It was lovely.
So my wife created the square for the quilt, and the picture depicted a scene from a TV show that we really enjoyed sitting down as a family to watch.
So we chose the picture of the Mandalorian and the little Grogu, and it was quite a tender picture. And so it reminded me of my son and his relationship with his dad, because they were very close. but also because I lost my dad to suicide, it sort of reminded me of the two of them together, and hopefully they're having ventures in the universe together, like Mandalorian.
And it was just a fun thing to do. Saturday afternoon, it was sit down with Kieran. He'll have his feet up in the sofa, he'd be cuddling the dog, we'd be running backwards and forwards of food because he was constantly hungry. But it was just nice memories, just sitting down together and doing that.
I've made this square in his memory, and I put on several things that he was really good at. John was a talented musician, had the opportunity to travel the world. He went from Bali to Bangkok, to Portsmouth, to Shanghai, and for several years he was in Singapore, and that's where his love of DJing took off. My sewing is not brilliant, so I found a treble clef and some turntables and some CDs, and that showed his love of music.
This is Danny, just smiling, always happy. Life was so of the party. This is what he won at the fair when he was 8 years old, and I've kept that with me ever since. It's very special. And the very last picture that was taken of Danny, and that's his beautiful smile. And I've still missed so much every single day. So my Daniel son, I absolutely worship you, and I know you're in no more pain now, but I will continue to fight for you, and you will not ever go unnoticed, my darling. Not wait.
My mum's name was Patricia Nash. One day I was just going through some photos and I managed to find 2 or 3. Yeah, the one that I've made for the square is one where my mum looks happy and I look happy, and that felt an important memory to have from a time when there wasn't a lot of that. I do feel more connected to my mum. I can look at photos, I can talk about her now, talk about memories.
Maple was a bubbly person, very charismatic. Cats were a big part of her life. There's a lot of symbolism in the square. I mentioned her name because we're here to speak about her name. Her name is sewn in ribbon, the gold ribbon. The reason being, it goes back to her childhood. My mother used to comb her long hair, and when she was a little girl, and she used to dress her hair in ribbons. The motif of the roses is taken from a dress Mabel used to wear, and beneath her name there's a small cat motif, a small black cat. Again, it's integral to her life.
Stephen was an incredible person. He was kind, he was loyal, and he really loved to joke. He jokes with us all the time, and many of my memories are of him as a really, really little child doing silly things. My square isn't finished yet, and the idea for it is to create some angel wings on the back of him, and I want to put a little crow because he loved crows, so it's just another thing about his personality. The reason I want to put the wings on is because this photograph is actually a real photograph. It's sort of a bit of a gift that he left us with, really, because he took this photo of himself sort of a couple of weeks before we lost him, and the real photograph just looks like he's walking away, and it looks like he's walking away into heaven. So it's almost the connection between where we are and where he is now. So it's quite incredible that he's left us with that, really.
Peter was 16 going on 30. He was a keen scout. He touched so many lives. At his funeral, there were 700 people. I couldn't think what to put on my square. I just had no idea, but I knew I wanted to put all him into it. And so I asked my daughter, Katie, she is the one who found him. She was 9 years old at that time. All my children were little. And she said, why don't we do the Scout emblem, the world emblem? And she sewed his name onto it. But this quilt was meant so much to me. When we were doing the sewing, I'm not very good at sewing, but to me, I cried with every stitch. That's how much it means to me.
The quilt square that I made features him, actually, with his two dogs, Lily and Luca, and they were the apple of his eye. He loved them so much. And he trained them so well. And one of the things that used to happen after he died, one of the things that used to kind of warm my heart, I guess, was I'd be out with the dogs and people would recognise the dogs and they'd be like, where's Kieran? Where's Kieran? We haven't seen him. And then I'd share, with them what happened. And sometimes there were tears, and they'd be upset and I'd get upset and they'd comfort me and I'd comfort them. And these are perfect strangers to me, but they knew my son. And I realised what an impact he had on people.
My square is representing Sasha and also my mother. She was 49 and she was a lovely lady. Might be a bit biased here because she was my mother, but she was. She was a divorcee, and being a divorcee in the 50s held a big stigma. So she decided to create a career for herself and went to Africa. And in Africa, that's where she met my father. The weekend before she died, I came up to see her. We had a fantastic weekend. The last night one of the proms was on, and we had every TV on in the house, and we had them on full blast, and we were singing our hearts out. And the last thing she said to me is, I really loved that song, and that was Jerusalem.
On the square I've made for Bryony, there's a picture of the character is called Little Nut Brown Hare, who's holding a little sprig of holly because it felt like a nod to her big sister. And actually this particular one, Bryony took around the world with her when she went travelling before she died. There's also, in the middle is depicted her rainbow earrings, which I've got on, the Bryony plant, which she was named after. I left the square unfinished because although Bryony might have felt her life was complete, as a family we didn't feel her life was complete, and I think her life is still carrying on just in a different way now. And in the middle of the square is the word magic, and that also came from some words that Bryony had left. It's a quote from Roald Dahl, which says, "Watch the world with glittering eyes, because the greatest secrets are often hidden in the most unlikely places. Those who don't believe in magic will never find it."